for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
Get one favorite like a Big Mac or Quarter Pounder with cheese and get another for just $1 right now at McDonald's.
Need more than technology. You need CDW, who gets to know your business and can design and deploy custom solutions with pre-configured HP notebooks with HP Wolf Security. AI-enabled threat detection and remote management protect your endpoints 24/7, giving your defenses some real teeth.
Bummer.
HP makes always-on remote security possible. CDW makes it powerful.
This is how it starts with the 2023 McDonald's Change Leaders. 10 young black visionaries who are starting something and changing everything. Find out what they're up to at mcdchangeleaders.com.
All right, everybody, this is Kyle T. Mosley of the Black Sports Insiders here with episode number 2. We got some good content for you guys tonight. We're going to have an interview with Coach DeMeco Ryans from the Houston Texans, as well as the founder of the HBCU NYC Classic, Mr. Albert Williams. Those guys will join us pretty soon. But before we do that, let's introduce the cast. Got Miss Keisha Kelly. How you doing, lady?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you as always. And let's
You
see,
too.
bring in Mr. Wilton Jackson II. What's going on, Wilt?
What's going on, Cal?
Good, good. And we got Mr. Ray Rogers. What's happening, Ray?
Hog pride, baby. You know me, yes, be here.
All right, man. Look, your Commanders, I thought they had a chance.
It's not my team. I just cover them. That's all.
Okay, all right. Now you want to disown them. You got the helmet up there, now you want to disown them, man.
Yeah, I got a Ravens helmet. So I got a bunch of helmets, if you can see it. But like I said, that's just for work purposes. It's not my favorite team at all.
All right. And we have Miss Kim Davis. How you doing, Kim?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you guys. We are having a great night already. But before we even go into the night, guys, let's talk about some serious issues. For my people in Texas as well as Louisiana, we'll be praying for you guys, making sure that you're safe upcoming few days due to Hurricane Francine.
Yeah.
Nah, that just don't sound like a good name, Francine. So we'll be praying for you guys there. And of course, we lost a living legend today, Mr. James Earl Jones. Man, I can't say enough how much this gentleman has impacted my son's life. He loves James Earl Jones, being a thespian himself. And he called me today, Dad, can you believe he died? And I said, man, 93 good years. And he gave us some beautiful content and artistry to be able to just remember him. Look, one of my first, Kim, you and I can probably relate to this now. One of my first time seeing him on the big screen was with The Great White Hope, when he did the Johnson story. And also I saw him in Bengal Long and the Traveling All-Stars. I went to the theater to see that, guys. You guys see it on film, y'all too young, y'all pups. But I saw that in the theater.
We know you old, Kyle. Don't worry about it.
I don't know, Keisha. I don't know why you put me in that category.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot you was 31.
Not you, Kim. Because he called us folks. Not you, Kim. This time.
All right, let's see. We're gonna have to mute Keisha. She acting up already. But Keisha, let's stay with you. The Jags. You guys rebound. Coach Terrence Graves was really pleased in what he saw. But it seems like you guys going to have a little quarterback controversy starting out. Talk a little bit about what happened with the Jaguars and with the good win that they had against Savannah State.
So I'm one of the most unbiased people, no matter who I'm talking about, my team, anybody else's team. There was a struggle. We're just gonna keep it booked. There was a struggle in the first half on Saturday. There was, and I tell people, football is still X's and O's. D1, D2 is still X's and O's. It does not matter who you're playing. And I knew that Savannah State was gonna give us everything that they had. They had a point to prove. They came into, I always say it's tough on the bluff. I mean, that's one of the things they say, it's tough on the bluff. But, they came and they gave us some fits. And, of course, that we all know, there was a quarterback change with Noah being switched out. But it was in that first half, in that first quarter, I was just like, come on, what are we doing? Like, everybody assumed this is D2. You're supposed to automatically, just win to your opponent. But, these guys are playing for the same thing, out of conference or not, they playing for stats. They're playing the game that they love. And, of course you'll want bragging rights and say, hey, I came up here and beat up on the D1 team. We're not going to act like it hasn't happened with Miles and Alabama State. It's happened with, with schools. So it was tough watching that. But once, the quarterback change came, they start clicking on every cylinder, and I'm just over here like, okay, now it seems like the rhythm is finally coming, but I'm not going to sit here and act like all four quarters we was just rocking and rolling. Absolutely not. Savannah State was trying to give us the business. They was trying to put a dagger in it.
They thought old boy was Shannon Sharp was back with him, right? So, but it was a pretty good game. I know, but you guys, the Jags came out the victors, and Jackson State, well, they looked like they rebounded pretty good, but they also whooped up on the SIAC team. Was it Lane?
Yeah, it was Lane.
Yes.
And they didn't look, they really didn't really do Lane any favors there. I mean, the Dragons went down 58-7. Talk about that.
That was a game that Jackson State pretty much had control from the very start, Cal. I mean, from the way that Cameron McCoy, for those that may not know him, he was the backup quarterback to Jacoby and Morgan. He got the start.
Really?
He was. He's the transfer that came in throughout the spring, and so he got the start over Jacoby. It was more so, according to Coach Taylor, it was more so about giving him that playing time against a smaller, team like Lane from the SIAC. And so, honestly, he got, not only did he get playing time, he got quality playing time. And for those who don't know his game, he's obviously a dual threat quarterback, and we saw it on full display on Saturday. 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 touchdowns throughout the air. He got injured going into the second half. Well, in the first half. He got injured, and then, of course, Jacobian comes in. But honestly, when you look at that game, if he doesn't get hurt, Cam probably plays that entire game. And so typically, when you came into this game and looking at Jackson State, you know that, like, the running game has been a big thing for them. Of course, the pass comes along with it, but they didn't really have to run the ball as much because they had such good field position throughout that game. Again, playing against Lane, defense played lights out. It's crazy because even with them playing lights out, defensive coordinator Lorenzo Quinn talked today in the press conference leading up to the game against Southern this week. He said they didn't finish the job, and that's one thing he wants to focus on. Even though Jackson State only allowed 1 touchdown, he didn't want to allow 1 touchdown. He wanted it to be 58-0, period.
Yeah,
that's what he wanted. He wanted a perfect game. And so until, obviously, no game is perfect, but all around offense, defense, special teams, Coach Taylor was excited, with what his guys did, and he's looking forward to, and Jackson State faithful are looking forward to an interesting boombox classic against Southern. So I'll be seeing Keisha probably in a couple days.
Boombox classic. You guys, y'all don't have
see me in a couple of days.
Y'all don't have any sound over there. Texas Southern got the sound. That's what they're saying. The PV.
Yeah, don't tell the boom or the box that.
I know, man. I'm not. Trust me. Ray, how was the MEAC, man?
So I was saying before we came on live that Chennis Berry, he's winning my vote already for MEAC Coach of the Year because his team looks so much better than they did last season defensively, going up against Citadel, who ran a triple option. And, that's hard to stop. but somehow they locked down and they were able to prevent Citadel from coming back. They built a big lead. You know, a lot of comparisons from Phoenix to Michael Vick. Left hand can move, and I'm excited about them. Also, like what Morgan did, even though they lost to Towson in the battle for Greater Baltimore, it's still something to be noted that their defense, Morgan State, held Towson to 0 points in the second half. That was a big statement coming back from Hampton, who scored 28 on Morgan State. And then I'm worried about Howard a little bit because they only won by 1 against Mercyhurst. Y'all heard of Mercyhurst?
No, I didn't hear from Mercyhurst. Does Mercy need a hearse after this one? What's going on?
Yeah, so that was a little concerning because you would think Howard, based on the season they had last year and the guys that they brought back, they have an amazing backfield. They got Kenny Gallup, who is on NFL radar, and he scored a touchdown, but still only went about 1 point against Mercyhurst. Was a little concerned. And then you had Elon defeating Central with Khalil Baker, the former All-American defensive back that played for Central. I'm not going to say he loves Central. Of course, he graduated, and he's getting his last year in school, so there's no hard feelings. But I'm sure it was fun going up against his old team and putting the hurting on them right before Central prepares for the Classic against A&T. So, yeah, fun week in the MEAC, but Chennis Berry is still in the show already. I'm excited, Kyle. That's your man. He's supposed to be coaching in the Celebration Bowl, according to you last week.
Coach Berry, bringing the heat, baby, bringing the passion. He's giving people what they need, what the coaches need to be able. Man, you got to see his press conference. You got to be in the game. You got to have those acronyms and those. You got to just do what Chennis Berry does. That's my best impression of Chennis. But he's a great guy, man. But also he has his heart to those kids, and that's what you got to appreciate. Hey, but Kim, you and I were sitting side by side, and we saw, what was the name of that school? Mercyhurst. We needed some mercy. Texas Southern needed some mercy against Rice. Kim, talk about it.
I think when we talked to Coach after the game, he probably summed it up. I mean, those young men were so excited about winning last week, after losing, 9 straight to PV. And like he said, it was a big win. He said, but maybe they got a little too caught up in the fact that they won that one game instead of focusing on what you really have to do. He said, I take responsibility for that because we knew what we saw on tape from Rice, and that loss to Sam Houston was not going to be the Rice they saw coming out on Saturday. So there are a few problems. They were without KJ, their quarterback. So that was the first thing. And Rice is so big and dominant up front. And once they just manhandled and owned the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and TSU just couldn't get anything going. And so that was hard to watch. And it was interesting, Kyle, you asked Coach at the half, what was he talking to the team about? Because he stopped them before they went into the locker room and they talked for a few minutes. And he said, I told him, you're not the first team to be down 38-0. And so he looked at me, and I remember that because I covered that Oilers team that was up 38-0 against Buffalo in the playoffs, and the Bills came back. So he could speak from experience about this isn't the end. We can come back, but talk about a learning lesson. Yeah, you got to.
It was tough sledding. Let's be honest.
It was tough.
Jace Wilson did his best to try to help those guys out. 6 passing yards in the first half is just not going to cut it. 2 first downs in the first half is just not going to cut it. And I think it's a good learning lesson for the Texas Southern Tigers.
Yep. Hey, Kyle, something, and I'll ask the other guys here. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but in the fourth quarter, they took 2 minutes off the clock and said, we both agreed we're just going to make it a 12-minute quarter.
I say it was mercy.
I'd never seen that. I was okay with it.
that was something agreed upon by both of the teams. Let's kind of end this thing short. So, but Texas Southern was able to score on their final drive of the game. So Grambling also, they came out big winners in the historic matchup between them as well as Tuskegee. Hampton, they rebounded with a win against Virginia Union, which I was surprised at. Well, I thought Virginia Union had a chance there. And Prairie View, they came out big. Now, Kim, that's a big win in this area right now for the Panthers to be able to go up to Northwestern State, Louisiana, and win that game.
That was a big win. It was good for, Bubba and the Panthers, especially losing to TSU. Of course, he has a lot of he's very close with Chris Dishman, but did not want to lose to them, right? So that was not the way he wanted to start the season. And that's how you rebound. I mean, Rice last week got beat pretty badly by Sam Houston, and they rebounded by taking it out on TSU. And so that's what Bubba did, and Coach McDowell and the Panthers. But that was the big win. When you can go and win those games outside of the conference, those are big.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to talk a little bit more later about what to expect in week 3. But right now, Kim, you had a great conversation with Coach DeMeco Ryans, the Houston Texans head coach, and those guys had a big win this Sunday. Talk a little bit about Coach Ryans.
So, DeMeco, of course, played for the Texans, was a linebacker back when he played, and a couple of years ago was one of the hottest coaches in the league. He was a defensive coordinator with the 49ers and was able to, the Texans were able to hire him. He was probably one of the hottest, or if not the hottest coach, one of the top 2 or 3. And so it was big for the Texans to be able to convince him to come back, because the Texans were a mess, right? Yeah. You wouldn't even recognize the team that was 2 years ago because of the success they've had over the past 18 months. But, they say in the NFL, it starts with a good head coach and a quarterback. And so DeMeco came in, they drafted CJ Stroud, Nick Caserio, who I will say the general manager, I have to give him credit. I was not totally sold on Nick Caserio in his first couple of years, was not sure he was cut out for the job. But the Texans had long coveted him. He was a former personnel guy with the Patriots. And so brought in DeMeco, was really more of the front of the owners saying, this is the guy we want. Of course, Nick didn't fight it. It was the best move for them. And when I tell you, he has completely turned the organization around from a culture standpoint. And we hear that a lot, right? We hear culture a lot in sports, but the feeling in the building is totally different. The feeling, not just in the locker room, but just throughout the organization and throughout the city. And so
that's what I was about to say. The whole city is
it's different. Yeah. Listen, I covered this Texans team when they went 2-14 under Gary Kubiak, and they still were able to fill the stadium up. But the last few years, after what happened in the Bill O'Brien, Jack Easterby era, fans checked out. They checked out and they lost a lot. And so this year, last year they brought in this, a quarterback who people were like, okay, this may be good. They exceeded expectations of people outside the building. And now this year they're a team that people are talking about. Maybe they can make a Super Bowl run, maybe. But there's a lot of excitement about it. And as you get to know DeMeco Ryans, like, he loves the game. Somebody asked him today at the press conference, Coach, you seem really hyped on the sideline. Like where's that come from? He said, I love the game. I love these young men. It's not fake. I don't have to try to do it. It's who I am. And that's what he brings. And I think that's what those guys connect with.
All right. Excellent. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and drop out and let you hear the conversation that Kim had with DeMeco Ryans in a few minutes.
It was early in my career. I was in San Francisco, and I go in and talk to the head coach, Kyle Shanahan, and we were just talking through plays. Like, man, I'm telling you, you have what it takes to be a head coach in this league. And he told me that early on, before I was a defensive coordinator. Right, I was still just coaching the inside linebackers, and he saw something in me that sparked a little more interest in myself. And I was like, sometimes you need someone to tell you, right, hey, you can be this, or you have what it takes to accomplish, right, such a high goal. And for Kyle to tell me that, it's like, okay, I can do this. It wasn't on my radar. That was not why I got into coaching, was to be a head coach. I just got in to, serve players and help younger players. That's why I got in. And I'm still doing that, serving and helping, and now it's just in a different role.
When did you feel it? When did you know, like, okay, he said it, but, like, I'm ready? Like, was it when you got this job? Because you've been kind of one of the hot names, right, out there. When did you know you were ready?
I don't know if you ever read it
right?
until you actually get in. You have to do the job. But I would say, from my first year of being a coordinator and getting a chance to interview for a head coach position after that year, it's kind of everything was going so fast. First year coordinator, now I have a head coach interview. I'm like, wow, like it is going fast. I want to just take a step back, kind of recalibrate, and I took that next season to kind of prepare myself for what does it truly entail to become a head coach. Like, what are the things I need to be working on to be a head coach? So I took a year to kind of figure those things out, and then a year later, I'm sitting here in Houston as the head coach.
You probably couldn't have written a better script, right? Come back to Houston, where you play, where you consider home, and to be a part of a city that you already know and love. Over the years, I've covered the league a long time. I would say now the league, in terms of management, coaches, GMs, and other office presidents, it's a lot more diverse. And I know that may not be what you sit back and think about, but that's kind of cool. I mean, to be at this place now, and you're part of that.
Yeah, no doubt. It's I'm thankful, and I'm honored, because I know it's a lot of coaches, executives who came before me, and they paved the way, who weren't able to sit in this chair and be a head coach, but guys who were deserving of the opportunity and didn't get the opportunity. So it's a lot of the older coaches that, I feel like I have to make sure I'm successful for those guys, like representing for them, and just going around and talking to other coaches, like, I feel like that a lot of guys they're pulling for me. Guys I've never met before, guys I don't know, guys like, man, I'm pulling for you to be successful. I'm pulling for you to get the job done there. And that means a lot to me. From guys who I've never met, guys I never talked to before, but to know that, they see me from afar and they appreciate what I'm doing, and they are truly all in on me being successful. So that means a lot to me, and I understand the weight that I'm carrying for a lot of people.
Obviously, the ultimate is to win a championship, right? But what is success? I mean, you always want to get better and you're pushing ahead, but you have to also kind of give yourselves a little grace sometimes and say, you've done a little something. What does success look like?
Success to me is every year being, like you said, everyone wants to win the Super Bowl, right? Success, I think, every year to get to that point, to have even the hope of getting to the Super Bowl, you have to win your division and get in the playoffs. So I think every year that you're in the hunt, like, that's a successful year, and then you figure out what does it take to make that next big leap to winning it all. But to even have a chance, that's why I tell our guys, that's why we do what we do, right? Yeah. It's for that Lombardi, right? It's something that you can't buy with money. It's something that you have to truly go out and earn. No matter how much money or accolades the players get, coaches get, like, that Lombardi is that, like, you have to go and earn that. And you keep money, however much money you have in the world, you can't go buy it. So that's what drives us. That's what motivates us every single day. And for each player, I always say that I don't know. None of us know, like, how long we have, right, to before our careers are over, right, or whatever, a setback, injury, whatever happens. So for me, I want to maximize every single year and make sure our players, they're getting my best, making sure they give their best so we can push toward the ultimate goal.
Let me ask you this. One of the things that some of your players have said, I think that when you take a clip of it, it can be taken out of context. You often hear, well, this organization isn't for everybody, but I don't hear it as because we're so great. What do you mean? What do you take from that? And when you say there's a special culture here, tell me what that really means.
Yes, I think that definitely got ran out of context. I think what guys are saying is, like, it is and this is what I want to create. It's a special place, right? It's a special environment. Just from the culture that not myself but the players have created, right? It's a culture of hard work. It's toughness. It's kind of missing in some places. But we're going to work hard. We're going to be tough, physical, and it's hot out here in Houston, right? A lot of people, they couldn't deal with it, right? And I just understand, like, it does take a special person, right, to work in the conditions that we work under, but also just in how, I push guys, inspire guys. Like, I truly believe that when you suit up to play in the NFL, like, you want to be the best. And probably, hindsight, I probably shouldn't think that about everybody, but that's what I believe. Everybody, if you are on this team, if you're in this building, like, I'm going to treat you like you're trying to maximize your talent to the utmost, and you want to be the best player at your position in the NFL, so I'm going to push you that way.
Yeah.
And some guys can handle it, some guys can't. But I just think if you're going to do it, like, are you half in? Are you all like, if we're going to do it, let's go all the way and let's do this the right way. It's the same for me as being a head coach. I'm not in it and I'm just happy just to be like, I want to make sure like we're as successful as possible, that we're trying to go win it all. So, we spend a lot of time away from our families, our kids. There's a lot of sacrifices that are involved here. So why not push everybody to the brink to see who can withstand and to see who can you count on in tough times?
I always say, don't just be glad to be in the room. There's so much more, but you got to be willing to do it. You mentioned special place and special players, and you got a lot of them on your team, but I'm obviously going to ask you about a young man that has come in and really set himself apart, not just as a player and CJ, but just as who he is. Talk about having him and then other guys that are bringing stuff too, but can you just talk about getting to work with CJ and who he is?
He's just special and it's not the football, it's everything outside of it. And that's, you learn that through the draft process and talking to his teammates. That's the biggest thing for me, talking to his teammates and what they had to say about him is like how he cared for his teammates, like how he treated them. Like everybody had great things to say about CJ as a leader. Not the football player. We can see the tape and watch the football player and know he can make all the throws, all that. Yeah, great. But this guy is a leader. He set himself apart for me in that regard. How he treated, one comment one coach gave me was, it's like, I've never seen a player treat like kids and wives and family like he does. And I was like, what? It's like, man, he always takes the time to come over, talk to my kids. He knows my kids' names, speak to them. I was like, really? Like, it's those things right there, right? That you have to believe in the person, right? Especially a guy you take your number 2 overall quarterback. There's a lot of scrutiny under that quarterback position, but just knowing this guy, he's raised the right way, his family, his background, he's been through some adversity growing up, so he knows, and from where he grew up to where he ended up in Ohio State, started and taking him to the playoffs, like, this guy can handle adversity, he can overcome, like, whatever it may be, off the field and on the field. And so when you see a guy who has all of those traits and characteristics as a man, like, that's what makes him special. And he'll be special because he's not, even with CJ, his success in his first year, he hasn't changed.
Right. Yeah.
He is who he is. He's still humble. He's kind. He's loving. He treats my kids, my family.
Okay, guys, look like we have a little technical difficulty, but we'll try to have more of the interview for you guys a little bit later. Let's bring Kim back in. Kim, talk about your time with DeMeco and just having this talk that you guys had. It seemed like he was being very, very, very transparent.
That's really who he is. He's been that way. He was that way as a player. And I have to tell you, I got a chance to talk to him. It was actually the week before the season kicked off. And when I said to him, hey, coach, I want to sit down with you one-on-one. I mean, we get access to him like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then on game day on Sundays. And so for him to take the time and do a one-on-one was really cool. It speaks to him, and I've built a relationship with him over the years. But NFL teams and pro teams are really big on limiting some of that access to national media and also to their partners, because the partners pay a lot of money for those relationships. And so I said to him, the PR team there is great. I said, but unless you say to do it, then they're not going to set it up. And he did. So that's the first thing I want to say is when you have guys like that who will say, absolutely, Kim, what do you need? I appreciate that, because he doesn't treat me and my work like it's different. And that's always great when you've been around and put in the work that all of us have for so many years. But he's super authentic. I mean, he's who he is. He's a family man. I don't know if you saw the game yesterday. At halftime, they had this craziness happen with a clock situation, and he just said, "You know what? It's on me. I'm the coach. We gotta do better." And he takes the ownership of it. You're not going to see him, blaming people. Now, I don't know what he says in the meeting rooms, right? I'm sure that he calls people out when necessary, but I know those guys respect him, and the coaches respect him, and I think it's the start of something that could be really good here for the organization, and also for him and his family. We didn't talk about it yesterday, but sometimes I'll ask him, whenever you ask him about his wife and his kids, you see he just lights up, because that is what's most important to him. So good guy. I appreciate him.
Yeah, beautiful family, good man that even the fans are gravitating to him and loving him, as well as the young man, CJ Stroud. What's the ceiling on this young man there?
Listen, I don't know. Year 2, obviously there's more that he can do and grow. It wasn't his greatest outing yesterday, but they won, and he still had some magical moments. I think the ceiling is really high. And that's another person who, what you see is what you get. When he first got here, Kyle, and he come to the podium after game, he's always going to say, I want to first thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I see some of my colleagues do the whole, like, here we go with that, right? But after you are around him throughout the season and you see that is a part of his walk, and he's clear about it, and it's not him wearing it on his sleeve, it's just how he lives his life, people then got it. And so the other thing I can tell you about CJ is because he's comfortable with his faith, he's clear about it. He says, listen, football is what I do. I really enjoy, but that's not what I'm here for. Football is the way I'm able to spread the word of Jesus. He believes that that's what his purpose is here. And now you see other players more comfortable talking about where they are in their faith. And it's not you've got to be this way kind of thing, right, in the organization. And so that's what's really cool. What is CJ, 22? I think he'll be 23 this fall, a young man who is really clear about who he is and a sponge to want to learn. I mean, I'll tell you this quick story. Last year I was talking with Tank Dell one day, and Tank about his relationship with CJ. And Tank said, man, CJ is he's always learning. He asked me one day about this play I made in college. And I said, bro, how did you know that? He goes, well, I go through YouTube and look at my players and see what they've done before we got together to see what they could do. I mean, so even outside of the film room, he's always trying to see what else can I learn about the guys that I'm lining up with. And so that's who CJ Stroud is.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because CJ got a lot of flack at the Travis Scott softball celebrity softball game because he just gave Amber Rose a ride home.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, he's a young man. That's what we do. You drive somebody who needs a ride, and she wasn't familiar with the Houston area, and she's a celebrity, and so is he as well. So I didn't see any problem with it.
Well, let me tell you, I think people just got a little worried, Kyle. Let's be honest.
I think his mama.
CJ Stroud is the chosen son of the city. You get a little worried when you see him hook up with Amber Rose, but it wasn't a hook.
Yeah, but look, I know I've heard his mother. I've heard his mother enough conversations that she was going to get him right.
Yeah, he's got a great
great
foundation, and so but he's clear about who he is, and so I enjoy that about him.
All right, we'll be back with Kim a little bit later, guys. Let's move on and talk a little bit of more college football, but first, let's pay some bills.
Pre-configured HP notebooks with HP Wolf Security.
Or not. All right. So right now, guys, we are having
AI-enabled threat detection and remote management protect your endpoints 24/7, giving your defenses some real teeth.
Bummer.
HP makes always-on remote security possible. CDW makes it powerful.
Makes it happen. With tailored mortgage solutions, Hope Credit Union makes homeownership happen for thousands of people, regardless of income or credit. Brighter futures begin with hope.
To plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
Revolution will be streamed. Guys, I'm Kyle T. Mosley of the Black Sports Insiders. Thank you for joining us tonight. Look, guys, I am here with a young man who has put on quite a great show up there in New York City, where you don't get a lot of HBCUs, but you got a lot of people from the NYC and New Jersey, Philadelphia area, and those guys just talk about the great experiences they had at any HBCU. And I know when I was at Morehouse and the Atlanta University Center, we had a lot of people who came in from that area. But look, man, Albert Williams, he's the founder of the HBCU NYC Classic. Albert, how you doing, sir? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Can you say that one more time, Al? Okay. Got a little echo there for you. But hey, man, talk about the upcoming game that Howard and Morehouse are going to be playing this coming weekend. Okay, we're going to bring Albert back in a quick sec. Let's see if we can get his mic straight. You got to unmute your mic, Albert. There you go.
There we go. Sorry about that.
All right.
All right, Kyle. Thanks for having me again, man.
All right.
Yes.
Good to see you, man. So talk about the HBCU NYC Classic. I was there for the inaugural game, and Howard whooped up on Morehouse only in the second half. We were 0-0. The Maroon Tigers did outdo what we were able to do until the Bison just poured it on. And last year, you guys had Albany State as well as Morehouse. And this year, you have Howard and Morehouse once again. Talk about that.
I mean, it's tradition, right? It's two of the classic rivals, right? You know better than I do. Morehouse, Howard. It's a great game. It's a good time for HBCUs. It's a good time for the fans, and it's in the Northeast. So a lot of their alumni, as you just stated, are in the Northeast. So having this HBCU Classic in New Jersey gives an opportunity for those alumni who can't make it back to homecoming to come out and see it. But it also gives an opportunity for folks who are not familiar with HBCUs and the camaraderie to come out and spend some time, hang out for us with 4 or 5 days, culminating at the end of the week with a game.
Yeah. Now, the great thing about this Classic, you guys have some great events leading up to the Classic. Talk about those auxiliary events.
Absolutely. So we do 2 college fairs, one on Wednesday and one on Thursday. Last year, our college fair in New York, that's this Thursday, we had at BMCC, Borough of Manhattan Community College, 968 kids got accepted to college on the spot. Over 3.
Whoa, hold on. Time out. How many?
968.
968 kids accepted to college on the spot. What type of colleges?
HBCUs, PWIs, community colleges, college. As long as they got in there.
Yeah.
That, mission accomplished.
That's
this
awesome.
year we have over 3,300 students registered to show up in New York and about 2,600 for New Jersey's college fair.
Wow. Now, how can someone register for that event if they're listening or have their kids ready to get into college for next year?
for next year. So check our website, www.hbcunyclassic.com. October, its registration is really close because we're 2 days away.
Okay.
But by October, we'll be ready to load up for the next couple of college fairs.
Okay.
So we'll definitely do more than one this year. We'll do probably one in February, one in May, and then one in September.
Okay. And what else is going on? Are you guys having like an event at the Apollo like you had once before?
Yeah. So last year at the Apollo, we had HBCU Inspired. We're not doing that at the Apollo this year. We're going to do that at King University in Union. So there we'll have the step show as a part of that HBCU Inspired.
All right. So you're going to have the Greeks out, the Divine Nine showing their stuff. Anything else that the people who are going to be coming into New York City can expect around the Classic?
Sure. So Thursday night, we have the step shows you just mentioned. Saturday morning, tailgating, of course. We also have a career fair, Come As You Are. So last year, we probably had 12,000 people go through that career fair, just pass through and look for jobs. Tailgating, career fair, the big game, of course, after parties, post-game show will be performance by Sean Paul.
Oh, really?
Grammy-winning Sean Paul. We're going to do our post-game performance. Let's see what else we got. We have an after party at the American Dream Mall where Toyota and Rock the Bells, we're going to have Slick Rick going to be out performing for us.
All right.
Yeah.
Dougie Fresh, will he be able to make an appearance with Slick, or is it just going to be Slick Rick?
We have to come and find out.
Hey, man, I told you, send me a ticket now. All right. Why Morehouse and why Howard? I mean, these are two legendary programs, but when you talk about the Maroon Tigers, we don't have a legendary football program, but we do bring the fans, right?
We bring the fans, and like I said, last year we did Albany State, right? So a lot of it is based on scheduling, right? To be quite honest, as you know, schools are scheduled years in advance. In the Northeast, Morehouse and Howard, they're alumni. They have a strong base in New York. New York City is ran. New York, New Jersey, is ran. The deputy head of city council in New York is a Howard grad. The mayor from Newark, New Jersey, Howard grad, Howard family. Got a lot of Morehouse execs, a lot of Morehouse city employees, city higher ups as well. So those are the alumni bases here, right, in the Northeast. And that's what some people will disagree with. That's what folks want to see. But these are the guys that we know, like you said, they bring the fans, and it's just an exciting game. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, I know for the first game, Spike Lee showed up, and of course, we got Samuel Jackson, who lives in New York as well. Any other dignitaries or special guests that the fans can expect to see?
Oh man, we got a lot. The young lady from Blackish, she's going to be there. Spike most likely will be there. You got dignitaries. You got Robert Smith, of course, be there. Amari Baraka, Raz Baraka, that's mayor of New York. Tish James, Howard grad, New York State Attorney General.
Yeah.
Bronx, Darcel Clark, Bronx District Attorney, Howard grad. Those are just a few that come to mind.
Now, Albert, I know you don't leave any stone uncovered. Did you try to get the vice president herself to show up and be in attendance?
Let's come and find out.
Oh, guys, you heard that little teaser. Come and find out. We may have a little sneak peek of our presidential candidate. But all in all, man, tell everybody how they can be able to go online, be able to support the event. If they can't support the event, how they can be able to watch the event.
Sure. You can get your tickets at www.hbcunyclassic.com. If you want to watch it at home, you can watch it on Peacock or CNBC.
All right. And guys, have fun, because this is a great event. You got the Howard Bison against the Morehouse Maroon Tigers. You see, I'm representing Albert. I had to represent, I got Dr. King back here as well, man. So I got to represent my alma mater. But I think it's a great all in all event. I think the first year we had 35,000 people. And in the tailgate, we must have had around 10,000 people just outside in the tailgate, man.
Yep, it was a good time.
It was a good time, real good time. Albert, thank you so much for being with us tonight, man. And I appreciate everything that you're doing with the HBCU NYC Classic.
Thank you, Kyle, for having me, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That's Mr. Albert Williams. And guys, go online, check the HBCU NYC Classic out. You can get your tickets out there as well. Let's bring in the crew. All right, guys, let's see here. All right, we got Ray. All right, Keisha and Will, you guys, I know y'all have some inroads to the SIAC, and y'all talk a little bit about the games there, but Morehouse been having a tough time of it this year, right? And Keisha, you saw it firsthand, especially that first game. Coach Terrence Mathis, do you think he could be able to turn this program around?
To be honest, I think it's going to take a year. I think it's not going to happen this year. I think it's going to take a year. Just to try kind of see what the team has and try to get everybody on the same page. But I think definitely it's gonna take some time, because even I didn't cover Morehouse this weekend. I covered Clark Atlanta, but even looking at, they come in, they played a strong Johnson C. Smith, and it looks like, getting over the hump. The most is like 13 points, 14 points is what Morehouse is able to do. So I think Coach Mathis is going to need at least, I said another year, but at least 2 at the most before we're going to be able to see something from the Maroon Tigers. I just don't see it happening this year.
And when it comes to the Bison, Ray, you watch those guys, and I know you on Coach Scott's payroll.
Nah, not really.
Talk about the Bison, man. And you think they have a great chance to be able to defend their MEAC crown and return to the Celebration Bowl?
They have the pedigree, as I mentioned. They have, I think, the best running back tandem in all of really HBCU football. You got Jared Hunter, you got Eden James, both dynamic running backs. And Larry Scott, if everybody knows his mentality, the way he coaches up his team always brings it for 4 quarters. They're never out of it. But they also struggle sometimes when you think they shouldn't. Hence the Mercyhurst game. So I think consistency is the key. Last year, they almost pulled off upset against Northwestern, but then they choked the game away at Hampton. And it's like, okay, what team is going to show up? Celebration Bowl, they should have had that game. They were ahead, and many thought that they were going to hold on and win that game. So consistency is the key. If they struggle with Morehouse, that's a problem. I'm sorry to say it, Kyle, no offense. This is a good measuring stick to see how they're going to defend. And the conference is getting better. We keep talking about one name, Chennis Berry. He's coming. Morgan State, they only beat Morgan State by 7 to cement their place in the Celebration Bowl last season. So they got to be more consistent.
All right, I couldn't hit that mute button fast enough, Ray, but I appreciate you, Ray, for your honesty. Oh, yeah. We'll talk later. But it should be a good one. But there was a great event this past weekend, Kim, and I know tennis is your passion, and that's how you grew up. If you guys did know, tennis was where she went to Texas A&M. We tried to get her in the HBCU, but she got some HBCU blood, of course. But when you talk about Francis Tiafoe and you look at what happened with Coco Gauff, still this, and we had some doubles, mixed doubles finalists there. They just kind of was short on winning that trophy. But how do you see the Black athlete trending right now when it comes to tennis?
So there's a lot to be excited about for American tennis players, in particular for Black tennis players. You talked about Francis Tiafoe. Zena, of course, is one of my best friends, was doing radio for ESPN during the Open. And so we talked after the match, and, Francis was right there. it's the mental part of the game that makes such a difference in tennis. I mean, it's important in every game, in every sport, but really in tennis. And so, toward the end of the match, you may think, oh, well, Francis looks like he wore down, but I think he wore down. He was worn down emotionally. And so those are some things that he's got to figure out and work out. But there's also the young man, Ben Shelton, that lost to Francis earlier, who is, if you would have asked me, where's the next champion going to come from? I think it's Ben Shelton. I really want to see Francis play well, do well, and take that next step. But I think we'll get there. But those are two young men that to watch and keep an eye on. And then you mentioned Coco, who had, she's still having a great season, but she has kind of slipped into something this summer since the French Open, where you see her doing what she didn't do last year, a little bit of the whining and complaining about calls. And so I'm always, when I see it, a little frustrated because she's a champion, right? And I want her to step on that court and continue to walk in the fact that she is a champion. And not that she will win every tournament, but she said something, guys, in an interview that made me kind of go, oh, man. During the week of the Open, she said at one point, well, I have won this before, so I feel like I can win it again, but I don't have to win it every time.
Ooh,
and she's right.
That's a loser.
But the fact that she said it really kind of made me go, yeah, she's not here for this one. I mean, she's a fighter. She's not going to quit. I saw all of that. I mean, she's not Sloane Stephens. We saw how Sloane won it, and she's just continued to kind of spiral. That's not Coco, but I really hope she kind of turns that around, right? Being a champion requires so much more than having great ground strokes and a good serve, and that is one of the things that the Williams sisters had, that their father helped instill in them. And Coco's young. I mean, she's still very young. I think her future is very bright, and there are others, but those are the ones that really stand out. So I expect her to get it together and continue to compete to be a champion, to get to be a number one in the world at some point, because I think she has what it takes to do that.
Here's a question for anybody who wants to really answer this question, because I had this dialogue with someone else talking about tennis as well as golf. Do you think in the individual sport game right now that there's a toughness that's lacking in some of our minority players right now? Am I off base with that?
I'll jump in and I'll say I think it maybe it's toughness, but it is that mindset. You're playing against the players that you're also traveling with. Like, that's also your circle. So you've got to make sure to find a way to, distinguish yourself from that, not lose your edge. And that's what the Williams sisters did, because that is your team. But you also got to still be clear that your team you. So I think that's one thing. And one of the other things too is those sports and those organizations that they grow up in don't really address the fact that there is a cultural difference. And they want to act like it's all the same. The USTA has been awful about that. And so you can't lose what it is that makes you so talented and unique and gives you the edge. And so I think it's finding that balance and finding that place has been a challenge for some of those players in those individual sports.
All right. Anyone else before we go on to another topic?
I think Kim said it good, but and not only just to add to that age factor specifically with Coco, like sometimes I have to remember, like, she's very, 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 very young, and she has a bright future ahead. But just being able to know, anytime that you have a certain level of sport, like when you're talking about like tennis or golf, that those individual skills, it takes a lot of discipline, and the will to want to continue to be great. And again, sometimes when you're young, my dad and just some other people throughout my life have always told me, when you're young, you don't know what you have, or you don't know what you built. You don't know what you have built in or built inside of you until you have to be, forced to be put in a position where you have to really, really use it. And sometimes when it's still being cultivated, you don't really know what you have. And so I think with Coco, as we continue to see her, obviously mature and grow, I think she's going to grow into that.
Yeah. You know what? I'll add one thing. You're absolutely right. But it's also, once the expectation set in,
that part,
it's that pressure. And you have to identify and say, okay, you know what? I'm feeling the pressure. I did some work with Taylor You mentioned the doubles, and so Zena coached Taylor for a while, did a little bit of work with Taylor, and when she had a great French Open, kind of when she was 17 or 18, got to the third round, and everybody loved her. Right? It was the furthest an American had gotten as a teenager since Zena had done it like 20 years prior, 30 years prior, and then she went to the Wimbledon 2 months later and lost in the first round. And she came back. She said, "Well, I'm just not going to do all those interviews." I said, "So first of all, you did 3, and secondly, you had 20 unforced errors. You couldn't have beat me." But it's the pressure of the expectations, right? So that's the thing that I think some of them struggle with. I think that's one of the things that Sloan has struggled with. How do I deal with that? So.
Yeah, that's the pressure I felt on my wedding night. So anyway.
Man, I'm gonna tell you
really.
Just joking, guys. Them are just jokes. Okay. We talked about the Boombox Classics that's coming up, and Keisha, we know you're going with the Jags, and Wilt, we know you're going with the Tigers there. But guys, I think if you look at some of these games that are coming up, it's still going to be like a murderous row because Prairie View has to play Michigan State. That's not going to be an easy task for the Panthers. Then Benedict has to play Ferris State, and you got but one game that is going to be kind of interesting to me is Hampton against Norfolk. Norfolk had a chance to bounce back, Ray, this weekend, man, and Coach Odoms was on the line. He was on that hot seat, and do you think these guys will still be on the hot seat in case he falls against the Pirates this weekend?
Yeah, this battle of the Bay. This is kind of like the Bayou Classic right here. You can't lose this. And I'm glad he bounced back against Virginia State because Virginia State got them last season in that opening game. Took some luck though. If you watch that game, I think Norfolk recovered a fumble and almost scored a touchdown. They scored on a play right after, maybe the play or two after. But anyway, you got to be Hampton. Got to. The noise is not going to calm down if you don't win this game. If you lose this game, then I think the seat gets even hotter. If that's possible. We know the rivalry, we know the history, and it's going to be packed. It's going to be a great environment, but you can't lose that game. And the fan base is already chirping. So Odoms needs this one. He needs this game.
Yeah, Coach O, man. People forget he's a former two-time Black college football national champion, right? So, I mean, Keisha, you know.
Listen, y'all know I'm an Odoms fan. I'm a Coach Chennis Berry fan. I'm a Trey Oliver fan. They're all Southern University in my book. So, you know, I'm fans of all of them, but I have to agree there. The seat is getting a little hotter and hotter every week. You know, I don't even think it's warm anymore, guys. It's and I want to see him succeed, but yeah, I'm with you. This is a must win. It's a must win in this situation.
Yeah, talking about hot seat. I was on the hot seat this past week when I reported some unfortunate news in a lot of ways because Andrew Body is a very special young man, and he is not injured, guys. He had to get his shoulder repaired, I will say, and I pray for a healthy recovery from him. He showed his flashes and showed that he is a superstar in this league once he gets the ball and given the opportunity in that Orange Blossom Classic. So we're praying for a speedy recovery for him, but it was a speedy recovery for the Hornets with that win that they had against Miles. So Coach Eddie Robinson Jr., which is a New Orleans native, so I got to give him some love too, you know. So we're going to see how these guys are able to fare without Body, and they had the freshman who came in and did a very good job. So kudos to him because O'Brien was also out of that game. All right, guys. Coach DeMeco Ryans is somebody we should be pulling for, and I'm going to extend the program extra 5 minutes here, but we got to talk about this, the evolution of the Black quarterback. 15 starting quarterbacks for the NFL opened the season. I recall back in 1968, if I'm not mistaken, when it was James Shaq Harris opening the season for the Bills. And then he went on to the Los Angeles Rams, and he was the first black quarterback to win the MVP for the Pro Bowl that season for the NFC, I believe. Yeah. So I think when you look at what's happening, we got 15 quarterbacks who are starting. We probably could have had a few more. How do you think those guys fared? Well,
I think they fared well for the most part. I look at, when I think about black quarterbacks, specifically, I think about obviously, of course, the CJ Strouds of the world, and I just think about, when you look at the Texans and what they're doing, the quarterback play from him. I'm gonna be honest. When they drafted him, I said to myself, with the defense that the Texans have and him at quarterback, this is a game-changing moment. Specifically, if they have an offensive line that will block for him, this is a game-changing moment. And we're seeing that from what we saw in the first year. Obviously, for some, it took some people by surprise because you don't always expect rookie quarterbacks, especially you don't always expect black rookie quarterbacks to come in and be successful. But he was successful, and he's only going to continue to get better each week. And so I'm really excited to see what he does. And I think that as more and more black quarterbacks continue to come out of college and look at him as a blueprint and see that, he did it the right way. He's still progressing. And at times you often see, and this, I guess, is not just necessarily black quarterbacks, but since we're talking about black quarterbacks, sometimes people come into the league and they become complacent. They want to be able to do the same things they did in college and think that this particular, mindset and this particular skill that you brought from college is going to work in the pros, and it's not. Everybody in the pros is just as good as you or better. And so to see that he's still taking those strides to continue to get better is only going to, bode well for him as he continues to thrive in Houston.
Yeah, a great game, of course, against Mahomes and Jackson on the kickoff special for the National Football League. That was awesome to see how those guys were able to push one another. But Kim, Deshaun Watson, Deshaun, you covered Deshaun in Houston, didn't look good. Didn't look good for him, but not because of his performance, because he was under duress most of the game.
I think it's both, though, Kyle. I'm one of the people in Houston that is not pulling for him to crash and burn, but he is, right? He is that performance yesterday, he was under duress. I mean, the starting left and right tackle were out, but he really doesn't look sharp, and he hasn't looked sharp since he's been in Cleveland. And, he looks broken, quite frankly, and I hope he can get it together. But when you look at all the things that happened, he's got that $230 million guaranteed no matter what. You got to want it. You got to want it to come back from what he went through to go out and do the things. And so I don't know if he does. I don't cover him anymore, so I don't have any contact with him. When I see his social media and what I see now from what I used to see when he was playing at a different level, it's the lifestyle, it's the Bentleys, it's the helicopters. And listen, you make the money, you should be able to do whatever you want with it. So I don't have any issue with that. But that's what he's showing. So that means at some place that's some sort of priority. And I think it's tough to compete at this level and to overcome what he needs to overcome if you don't really put your mind to it and aren't willing to do what it takes. And I think when I watched the game, the guys in the locker room know. And so it's going to be hard for the coach to keep running Deshaun out there if that's what he's putting out.
One thing that it's just me, guys, but I noticed this little thing. When your offensive linemen and your other teammates don't come to pick you up, after you just got blasted, that's...
Well, when you extend your hand to pick somebody up and he waves you off, I saw that happen yesterday too.
Yeah.
I said, that's not good.
Let's see how that's able to be turned around. And guys, I'm going to recommend this book, The Great Black Hope. It's the evolution of the black quarterback by Lewis Moore. It's a great read. It's now available through all the major bookstores. You get it in hardback or paperback. Amazon, I know, has it as well. So get that book if you can. Keisha, you brought up a good point earlier, we need to talk about this matchup, Allen versus Clark Atlanta. Clark Atlanta, since my days back in Ever Neverland, they are 2-0. 2-0, and that red field got people burning, baby. So talk about how this matchup is going to be better than what people can expect.
Listen, this matchup on Saturday, it was a really intense match. I honestly, this is Clark Atlanta's 2-0, first time since 2017 that they have been 2-0. And I like the way Coach Keaton put it. He calls the red turf the red carpet. I like that. If you know Teddy Keaton, he's a talker. He's one of those guys. And as we can see, he putting the money, whatever, it matches up. It all matches up. But it was, you know, you look at a team where Coach Keaton came from Allen University. And so what you see is old teammates and new teammates. What you're saying is the line. And so there were a lot of penalties created on Allen's side. It came down to the wire, 22-26. And that last play, even like I said, even when it was, you know, the end of the quarter, end of regulation, there was a fumble because the quarterback for Allen was running the ball. And all we kept thinking was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it was just one of those matches. It was, you know, Allen struck first. You know, they struck first, 6 points. The PAT was no good, but they struck first. And then it was just up, down after that. But that 22-26 could have went either way. And even when I talked to Coach Pearl, like I tell people, for people that don't know, Coach Pearl just came back from Alabama A&M. So, you know, he was over in the SWAC. Now you're back over here in the SIAC. You know, he spent a lot of time at Central State. And so for talking to Coach Pearl, he was like, you know, Keisha, we just, you know, we basically killing ourselves, just too many penalties. Right. But I did get a chance to walk on the red carpet, or, you know, the red turf, and see it up close and personal. It really does look good. But like I said, Saturday could have went either way. But for Clark Atlanta, I say it right now, the buy-in is coming. You talking about 2-0. I mean, they'll go to, was it the Sunshine game, FIU? But, you know, it's coming. It's definitely coming. It is.
Morehouse is going to put an end to that at the end of the season. I just want to let you know, Coach Keaton, you keep the Panthers. Y'all need some good spirits. Y'all hadn't had this in a long time. Let's just let that go. So yeah, we're gonna put an end to all that. We're gonna shut it down. We're gonna shut it down.
At the end of the season, okay.
but hey, guys, this is gonna be a great one because First Take is gonna be there right before that matchup, man. So Shannon Sharp, as well as Stephen A. Smith and Molly, will be in attendance, and that should be a good one altogether. Couple of good ones. Lincoln versus Johnson C. Smith, Clark against Florida Memorial, and the Thoroughbreds of Kentucky State against Fort Valley. Check out those SIAC matchups. Guys, any last comments, criticisms?
Listen, I'm riding with the Jaguars 200%. Listen, y'all can say what y'all want to say about them Southern Jaguars. We don't know who's going to be the quarterback. I'm taking whoever. If you give me Zay, I'm taking Zay. If you give me Noah, I'm taking Noah. All I want is a W. I don't care what Wilson has to say. I don't care what the Tigers got to say. It's always about the Jags. It's a battle of the big cats this week. Boombox Classic is just a terrible rivalry. But, you know, I had a lot of close friends that graduated from Jackson State. So at the end of the fourth.
JSU rock you.
This is why Morehouse is 0-2 right now, guys. This is why they're 0-2 right now. See, this is why.
Hey, where's my mute button? All right, guys. Thank you so much. That's Miss Keisha Shelley. Keisha Kelly. Kate, what's the J for?
Jamil.
Jamil. All right. I'm
no, Jamil. Jameel.
Jamil.
No.
All right. I'm gonna start calling you that.
That works.
Jamil.
That
works. That's Kim Davis. That's Wilton Jackson the second, and Mr. Ray Rogers, man. And Wale, you're missing again, man. You're missing out on all the fun, baby. But he will be with us. We should have a great show coming up on Thursday where we're going to have Tamika Reed, an interview with Coach Reed. And that's going to be a good one. You know, that's my girl, man. So Coach Reed will be in talking with us, and we hopefully, I'm trying to get a couple of the SWAC coaches to be kind of chime in with us to see if they could talk about the games ahead as well. I'm Kyle T. Mosley of the Black Sports Insiders. Thank you guys for following us. Go to @BlackSportsInc on Twitter, but also go to Black Sports Insiders on Instagram to follow us as well. And if you're following us on YouTube, mash up the likes, subscribe to our channel as well. We are growing, but also support our host, HBCU Plus, which is owned by Urban Edge Network. Thank you guys for following us. And hey, guys, don't forget, always be tenacious and always support your HBCUs. Thank you very much. Take care.